Hi everybody, this is Rob Redman of 3D World, and in this brief tutorial I'm just going to show you how to use XREFs in your cinema4d scenes. Okay, so to start with, we've got this washing line or washing spinner scene file set up, and it's just a simple model, and I built the clothesline itself, the actual spinning line, just using a combination of sweep NURBS and a cylinder with some extrusions, which isn't really what this is about. But what I did is I created that, and then I made a plane just above the whole kind of setup of the washing line, and used the cloth engine, Cloth Hild, to produce a simulation which lets it move the kind of cloth drapes over everything as you would expect, and you can play that through, and it's going to take a little bit, but you can see that the cloth is hanging and will move as the line rotates, and you can see the washing line turning around there. So we've got a simulation using the cloth engine. We've got a couple of keyframes. If I select the washing line itself, keyframe at start and end, or start and frame 100 there, just to have some animation and let this kind of follow the motion realistically. And what I've also done is, after I ran the simulation, I put the plane into a cloth NURBS just to give it a little bit of thickness. If I zoom in just a bit, you can see on the edge of the cloth there's just a little bit of thickness there, just adds a bit of realism. Okay, so that's our washing spinner file, and I'm just going to save that, and then I'm going to close it, and this is what's going to be our XREF. So we'll refer back to this scene from within this scene. So this is just a simple setup, and I could imagine this might be, for example, a garden. So we've got this patch of grass here, but what I want to do is, so also just in the scene, just so you know, is I've got some lighting. I've got direct light, and then a dome light, the skylight here, which is from the Grayscale Gorilla HDR Light Kit Pro, which I built as well. But so we've got a simple plane, we've got the floor plane there, and then we've got a simple a disc, which if I look in the side view, you can see I've just made into a slight mound, just by lifting up the central polygons, and to that I've applied a hair object, which I've used to replicate some grass. Now, there are no keyframes in this scene whatsoever at the moment, it's just as it is, but what I want to do is to add in a washing spinner. Now, I know I've already got one built, and that could have been either purpose made for this project, or it could have been from a previous project, and my top tip is brought on quite nicely by that, and that's model everything to scale. If you build everything to real world scale, whether it's imperial or metric, doesn't matter, you'll know that all of your assets are going to work with each other. So if in 2 years time you think, oh, I wish I had a washing spinner made because I'm getting close to deadline and I don't want to be going buying one and resizing and repurposing and everything like that, then you'll know you've already got it, and you can just bring it in using an XREF or merge the scene, but XREFs are easier to use. And you save yourself time, make yourself a bit more efficient. So what we can do is add an XREF to the scene. Now you can either add XREFs in to your interface, which I've done here just by going Window, Layout, Command, and then if you open up the command manager here, you can type in, let's say, XREF, and you can then drag that. You can see as soon as you click and hold on it, the interface icons have a blue border around them, and this means you can pop in that command wherever you want on your interface. Now I'm not going to now because I've already got it done, so I'm just going to close that down, but that's how you add things here. If you don't want to do that, then you can go to Objects, Scene Objects, and then down to XREF, and you can see what you've got here looks like a null. Over in the Object Manager you've got the XREF there. You can see in the Attributes Manager we've got a few different options. Now we've got the file name, and I'm just going to click on the load button there, and I'm going to look on my desktop, and I'm just going to find the right file. Now where have I kept this? I'll just open this folder, you can't see it there, but here's my washing spinner, so I'm just going to add that to the scene, and that opens up our model with the pivot point of the model or the scene, everything that was inside that previous washing spinner scene will be at the pivot point of this null object, which is our xref. Now there's a few things you can do with the xref. You could just now hit the C key and make this editable, and it would bring in all of the information, but you'd also have all of the simulations, you'd have all of the animations and the keyframes, and at the moment you can see we've got no keyframes in this scene whatsoever. But also, saying that, I can press play and nothing happens. But we can move this around. We can take the washing spinner and we can resize it, we can move it, we can put it where we want. I could shove it over there if I wanted, put it wherever you feel like. If you want to manipulate the scale of things, what you need to do is go into object mode. So you'd want to make sure you're in object mode and then start resizing, because if you're in any of the other modes it's not going to work. But we are missing our animation, and part of why xrefs are so good is that you can bring in all of the animation and only have 2 keyframes for each object. So if we were doing a row of houses with gardens and each one had a washing line, rather than bringing in all of those simulations, and then you could have keyframes for like maybe a dog running past or anything you wanted, you can really minimize the overall kind of overhead, the memory overhead of this one scene, just by coming down here and pressing take animation. And you can see as I did that, you've got these 2 keyframes that start and finish, and this refers to the start of any animation within that washing machine or washing spinner scene and the end. So if it was spinning too slowly or too fast, we could adjust that here, and this will take what's inside that scene and speed it up or slow it down so you can fit it to your current scene. And we can press play and you can see now there's one problem here, and that's if we go back to the beginning, we're having some issues here because it's not brought over the collider tag. And if you do have simulations running, and that's the reason I've shown this here, is you do need to then make this editable within this scene, or you can go back to edit scene and that will open up the original scene for editing, which I can then just make any adjustments I need to do. So you could either just lift this up out of the way slightly, and then what you do need to do is save, go back to window, xref start, and then make sure that everything's kind of lined up again. You need to highlight your xref, go back to reload scene, and that will make sure that this is up to date. And now you will see in this box here, it will tell you if the scene is out of date, up to date, whatever's going on. Okay, and you've also got, if you've got materials in this xref, you can have a look in the xref M here, and it will tell you a list of all the materials that we used. And you can, if you want to then adjust them from within this scene, you can drag them across into your material manager, and you've got it there. And you can still see it still remains in our previous scene which we're referencing, but you don't need to worry about that because we're overriding it with this one here. It will still stay as it was in the original scene. Same with objects, you can see what's going on here. So we could turn these off or on like so, and this is basically the equivalent to using the traffic lights in here. So now what I've got is I can just render a region, and you'll see that actually what's happening is that the cloth object, now we've hidden it, is not going to render in the view. Now I've got lots and lots of hairs. I've got kind of 250,000 hairs, and I'm recording this video on a slightly underpowered machine, and I've got lots of GI and soft shadows and all sorts going on here, so this is going to take a while. You can see that rendering the hair shadow maps has already taken 24 seconds. But saying that, if this was a much more complicated scene, it might take, for example, if it took 5 minutes, if we didn't use this as an xref, if we used this either imported, merged, or we pressed C now to make it an editable object, we would find that that could actually then move up to taking more like kind of 6 or 7 minutes. So well worth bearing in mind, and it just means that keeping this also your object manager, if we want to keep this neat and tidy and easily accessible, you've only got the one option. You don't have to worry about having all of this hierarchy inside here, You don't then have to worry about setting up layers quite so much for all the different options, but you've still got access to everything. As I've just shown, you can turn off certain things, but it does keep everything neat and tidy. So I hope that's been of some use. I've tried to get a few tips in there, but there'll be more coming in future articles. Thanks very much. Bye bye.